it's not ready for operation. It'll go to the field and it'll be destroyed. There's nothing that NATO can do to change what's happening to the Ukrainian military on the ground, which is they are suffering strategic defeat at the hands of the Russians. We are seeing the Russians have taken over the strategic initiative, the operational initiative, and the tactical initiative. Russia is advancing across the lines. These aren't dramatic big arrow advances. These are small, going 500 meters this day, 2 kilometers here, 3 kilometers. But the Ukrainians are being pushed back, and they're being forced to, because standardly, if you're attacked and you're pushed out of your position, the first thing is to counterattack. The counterattack requires the deployment of reserves. They don't have any reserves left to deploy. Nobody trained, no equipment. And so they're being stretched thin, and eventually you're going to stretch them so thin, they're going to break all across the front, and the Russians are moving forward. So, I mean, I don't like the Ukrainian government, but in a way, I feel sort of sorry for them because they're sitting there going, hey, you got us into this mess. We lost 500,000 guys. Our army's getting slaughtered, and you say there's nothing left to give, but you're giving it away to the Israelis. Why don't you send some of that our way? That's not how the game works.
Is there some saber rattling or animosity going on between NATO and Russia as we speak?
Well, I mean, you see NATO making noises, but the bottom line is NATO's a paper tiger. There's nothing in NATO. They've got nothing. Listen to the words. You had the head of their of NATO's military, committee, Admiral Bauer, say, NATO has to prepare for war with Russia in 20 years. Well, good God, you have that kind of crystal ball, pal? You have other people saying if Ukraine is defeated, Russia will then attack NATO, and we have to be prepared for war. It's just stupid. Ukraine will be defeated. They are being defeated, but then Russia's not going on to attack Poland or anybody who knows anything about the military. First of all, where's Russia going to get the forces to do that? Now, if NATO attacks Russia, Russia will mobilize, et cetera. But to move in from Ukraine, where Russia has sufficient forces to accomplish this task, and then transition immediately into an offensive into Romania or Poland is going to require, hundreds of thousands of more troops that the Russians don't have. They haven't, equipped, trained, prepared for this action. Logistics. You win war by logistics. The Russians aren't logistically prepared, and the Russians don't want to do it. It's not their doctrine. So NATO lives in a fantasy world that's designed to articulate a scenario that gives them continued relevance. And that's all this is about. What do you do when you are a failed military alliance that's breaking apart at the seams, that has been exposed as a paper tiger, where every one of their militaries is a joke, can't fight, and you put everything on the line in Ukraine, hoping that the Ukrainians could somehow accomplish that which you could not, and now the Ukrainians have lost and you have nothing to give? How do you continue to articulate your relevance? By projecting a threat that doesn't exist. Russia is not going to invade NATO. They have no desire to invade NATO, and yet NATO is going to sell this so that they can somehow scare their populations into continuing to set aside money for this ridiculous, outdated military alliance that has no viable reason to exist today.